Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Rock Your Week call. My name is Josephine Hannon, but you can call me Jose. I'm the founder of Promote Her Business, where it is our mission to promote your business and each other. Say it with me now. Online, offline, all the time. And oh my goodness, are you in store for a great time? Because the theme of today is our business wellness quiz. We are going to be doing an 8-point business wellness quiz to see how we're really doing in our business and to see what we need to laser focus on this week that can make a difference for the rest of the year and maybe even the rest of our business lifetime. So if you think that's cool, say, can't wait to take the quiz. But before we dive into that, I do want to acknowledge everybody who has been taking our Rock Your Week 12-week challenge. And really the challenge is to be on the Rock Your Week calls for 12 weeks straight, because that's how long it takes to build a successful default habit so that you are consistently and strategically planning each of your weeks. So if you're with me on the 12-week challenge to get in the habit of strategic success, which is only what the highest achievers do, say, I'm with you, Jose, or even feel free to share what week are you on of the 12-week challenge. I really want to acknowledge you for being up for a challenge, because it takes something to be on these Rock Your Week lives, and it takes something to be such a stand for being the highest achiever in your business this year. If you want to get more results than you've ever got, you got to do what you haven't done, and you have to do things that other people aren't willing to do, like be consistent. So, woohoo, thanks for taking our 12-week challenge. Now, what we're going to do for all our new members is make sure that you have your Rock Your Week action plan out. And it looks a little something like this. Actually, it looks a lot like this, because it is this. The Rock Your Week action plan. And you're going to want to fill this out every single week, so that at the end of the month, you could see how you did. And at the end of the year, you could see how you've progressed throughout the entire year. And to get to it, it's really easy breezy. Just go to the top of this video and click the Rock Your Week action plan. Wonderful. Now what we're going to do is we are going to start from the very beginning. As they say in The Sound of Music, we're going to start at the very beginning, the very good place to start, which is we're going to start with where we've been this past week, right? What got us to today? And that is the first one of the first categories on your Rock Your Week action planner. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and get out your calendar. Look at the past week. It could be your physical calendar. It could be your old-fashioned, day timer, or it could be your electronic Google Calendar. Or do people even use Outlook? It seems like everybody's going to Google Cal these days. But go ahead, no matter what you're using or a hybrid of the two, go ahead and look back at your past week. And your past week is anything that happened from last Monday, the 29th, past Halloween, all the way up to anything that happened 5 minutes before this call happened, all constitutes the last week. And find out, what do you want to most acknowledge yourself for? What was your biggest win from the past week? Because a really important part of our business wellness is our ability to feel like we're doing something that makes a difference. And a lot of times it's easy to discredit everything that we do, like we're not where we want to be as fast as we want to get there. And what happens is, in the process, we miss all the awesome achievements that got us where we are today. And this is the question I'll ask you. I had one of my clients say this to me. She said, Jose, I feel like I'm doing so much, but yet, there's still so much to to go for me to really feel successful? And the question that I asked her was, what if success looked like where you are today? And I want you to really think of that for yourself, because maybe for you, it's not a big deal where you're at, but compared to hundreds and thousands of other people who maybe not have the luxury to be an entrepreneur, or who would consider your strengths as amazing talents, or who would be so blown away that you even put on an event, even if you didn't get 1 million people in the room for it, okay? Like, where you're at is success, okay? So I want you to just take a minute and acknowledge that where you are at, could be, just could be. Now, I personally think it is, but I'm not going to impose my personal opinions of, empowerment upon you. I'd love for you to own those. Is, what do you really want to acknowledge? What's proof? I want you to start looking for proof that you are successful, right? So what's some proof that you are successful? Okay, so go ahead and put that on your Rock Your Week action planner. Even feel free to share in the comment section why you one thing that you did that was amazing that you would like the community to cheer you on for. In other communities, it's bragging, it's bad if women especially are overconfident and too proud in what they achieved. That's not the case at PHB. At PHB, we're one of the places where the whole community is cheering for you, no matter if we're in the same category as you are, right? Because it's not about competition. It's about coming together in collaboration and being better than we've ever been, because we can acknowledge each other's successes. So share, go ahead and share something amazing that happened this past week. We're here to cheer you on. Woo woo. And then also make sure that you're putting it on your Rock Your Week action planner in the Where You've Been section. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to jump right into our 8-point quiz, which I'm so excited about. This is called our Business Wellness Quiz. And it's very, very important, right? So the question is, the first question, I know we have very intellectual and astute members of PHB. So the first question is, what the heck is business wellness? And what does it consist of? Because you can't really measure something if you don't understand what the heck it is that you're measuring, right? And different words have different meanings to different people. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we're all on the same page about what is business wellness. And as I'm going through this, where I want you to be writing is, you see on your Rock Your Week action plan, in the section called Theme of the Week, this is where you're going to put all your notes for the 8-point business wellness assessment. Okay, so right here in the notes section. Great. Okay, so let's start with, what is business wellness? And the question that came to me was, what's the difference between wellness and health? And I really love this quote, because this for me symbolizes what the difference is between wellness and health. And the quote is, health is a state of mind. Wellness is a state of being. So it's a state of mind versus a state of being. So when I'm talking about your business wellness, I'm talking about not how you just think about your business, but how you're literally being in each of these different categories, which is way more than just how you're thinking about it. Although thinking about it's also important, but how you're being is ultimately what gets you what you're doing and results, right? So that's what we want to be thinking about. Cool. So I'm going to bring us back here, okay? And then the question is, what does business wellness entail in terms of this quiz? And what it entails is 8 areas that I'm going to walk you through. And you're probably like, well, Joyce, where did you get this business wellness assessment from? Well, I'm a big believer in looking outside my industry at other places. That's where you get really creative ideas from when you're not just thinking within your industry. Have you ever noticed that when you're thinking, don't just think outside a box. I don't even know what a box is. People keep saying, it's so overdone. I don't even know what that means. But I would say, what could be useful is not just thinking outside of some random box that I can't even picture, but think outside your industry. Start learning what other people are doing, how other people are thinking, and you can bring that back to your industry, which is another really cool part about being in PHB is that, there's so many different industries to learn from their best practices too, right? So one thing that I learned was I was learning about the 7 dimensions of wellness, and I'll show you this picture. I'd read this article, and it was from the University of California, Riverside. So well-researched, good old UCR. And they were talking about the 7 dimensions of wellness on more of a personal level. And they were talking about social, emotional, spiritual, environmental, occupational, intellectual, and physical. And of course, as entrepreneurs, if we ever repurpose anyone's ideas or we're talking about them, we always want to give credit. That's why so many women, for example, are not known in the world, is because they never got credit. So we want to be examples of what we want. And if we want credit, we need to give people credit who, we're referencing, right? So once again, I'm referencing the University of California, Riverside. And I thought, wouldn't it be so cool if we put a business spin on these categories? And the one category that was missing for me was financial, because, your sales is the lifeblood of your business. And if you don't have money to fuel your business, you aren't going anywhere, right? And so that was the other dimension. That's why PHB's business wellness assessment is 8 as opposed to 7, is because I wanted to make sure we got the business side, the what's fueling our business, which is not just our own, brains and energy, but it's also literally money, right? And sales so that we can, really have a sustainable business. Okay. So this is, let me show you the wheel that I came up with for PHB. And we're going to go through each of these cool categories. Now, as I'm going through these 8 dimensions of wellness, what I want you to do is back on your Rock Your Week action plan, I want you to write each category that I'm talking about. And then what you're going to do is you're going to give yourself a score. And we're going to make this really easy breezy to keep up with. Your score is either going to be 0 or 1 for each of the different dimensions. I know I feel like I've been hanging around engineers too long. I'm getting very Boolean on you. Welcome to Silicon Valley, Joes. Okay, so enough of amusing myself for this moment. But you're going to evaluate each of these dimensions on either 0 or 1. And 0 means that you want to improve in this area. Okay, so you're going to write the name of the dimension, and then you're going to write either 0 or 1. And 0 means you want to improve, and 1 means it's good enough. Okay, so good enough means either it's working or it's not working, but you don't care to fix it. At least you don't care to fix it at this time. Because this is the thing, you can have good intentions and you could pretend like you care about fixing a lot of things all at once. But if you don't really care, it just ends up going on your to-do list, overwhelming you, And then it doesn't help anything because it actually takes away from what you really do want to focus on, right? So I only want you to actually be honest with yourself. Don't do what you think is cool or what I would expect you to do or what your mother would expect you to do or what your business coach would expect you to do. But I really want you to own it. I want you to say for each of these dimensions, is it a 0 that you need to improve, like you are committing to improve in this area, or 1, it's good enough for now because really you're not looking at it, right? Or you don't want to focus on it or will distract you from other things that are more of a priority for you right now. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to think about how you're doing this week. So for each of these 8 dimensions, as I'm going through them, I want you to be thinking about how are you in this area as of right now? Not like how you were in this area the past decade, not like how you wish you were in this area, not like how you pretend to be in this area, but like literally like this week, at this moment, if I just did a freeze, right? Right? Like, how are you doing at this snapshot of time? Okay, so that's the way that I want you to be thinking about this and just be really real with yourself. Okay, if you're open to being really real, say, let's get real, Jose. Because that's the only way to improve in your business and in your life, right? Because if you're not real about it, you can't fix pretend things. Okay? You can't fix pretend things, and you can quote me on that one. All right, so let's go through these different dimensions. And for everyone joining us, just one more time, you're going to rate yourself on a scale of 0 or 1. 0 is needs to improve, and 1 is good enough. Okay, so the first dimension is going to be emotional, okay? So thinking about how you are as a business person and how you're doing in your business as of this moment, how are you feeling emotionally? And if your immediate response is good, just to be clear, good is not a feeling, okay? Being able to tap into our emotions is so important. It's so important because people, for example, just from a business perspective, they buy on emotion, including you. They buy on emotion and they justify with logic. So the more we can tap into our emotions, the more we can help other people tap into their emotions. Also, the more we can understand what's going on for us, whether we're buying something physical or we're buying into something, because it all goes down to our emotions. So important to be able to feel. And so if your answer is good, it means that you currently aren't able to tap into something deeper, right? Or you're not allowing yourself to feel. And I want you to start to notice, are you able to feel, or do you often turn your feelings off? So a feeling, for example, would be happy, sad, scared, annoyed, mad, grieving. I think that's good. I gave you enough for the moment, okay? And I want you to just really notice it and go ahead and write it down. Also notice where you're at the beginning of the week, because when you can notice it, you can do something about it. And the other thing to notice is, sometimes we have these feelings, and a really great way to test, what you're feeling is to do what I call a heart check, is where you take your hand, you just put it over your heart, and you just really just take, let's take just 10 seconds, just be with me for a second and just feel if you can tell how you're really feeling. Think about going into this week. How are you feeling about it? Okay, great. And, a question that came up is, can you be feeling two conflicting emotions at the same time? Yes, of course you can. You can't usually feel them exactly at the same time, but you could feel them like they're both going on for you, right? Like maybe you're scared and excited. And what's interesting is the same feeling that you get for excitement, you get for fear. So you can choose to figure out how you want to interpret it, right? One's empowering, one's disempowering, right? So you can also recontextualize the feelings you have, but you can't recontextualize them if you don't even know what's going on for you, right? So I want you to just take a minute and write down, is it a 0 that you need to improve in this area of maybe being able to feel as a business person, or you need to improve in terms of you have some kind of feeling that it could drag you down. And sometimes our personal, when I was in the corporate world back in the day, it was this idea that we wanted to separate out what's at home stays at home, and you only bring, you just bring your work stuff to work. But the reality is that's not how we as humans function. Our personal does affect our professional. And so it's important to also notice that, there could be emotions in the background from your personal life that could easily trickle into your professional life, right? Like, for example, this week, my dad, actually this past week, my dad's in Chicago and he has leukemia. And he just did he's been in remission, thank goodness, but he's going through stem cell. He did a big stem cell bone marrow transplant. And for his age, my dad's 70 years old, it's a very high, very, very high risk situation. And so, for me, I have a lot of emotions. My heart is back in Chicago. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling, oh, what's going on? What's going on? I'm feeling anxious. So these things, if I'm not able to recognize that those feelings are going to trickle into my week, and I'm just going to pretend they're not there, then they're going to sneak attack. Have you ever had a sneak attack of emotions? You're just like overwhelmed and you can't even function. You don't know why, because you haven't realized, you haven't distinguished, these emotions in the background. So just distinguishing them, just saying, hey, I know you're out there. I know that, I'm feeling a little sad this week. I'm feeling a little anxious. Just that can make a difference. So when they sneak up on you, it's not as bad and they don't take you over, right? So maybe that's an area you want to improve on, is being conscious of those emotions. Okay. So the next category that we're going to talk about, and make sure you give yourself a rating, 1 or 0. The next category we're going to talk about is financial, right? Which is the fuel of our business. It's the fuel of our business, because without sales, without customers, without money, we're not going to be in business for long, right? So it's very important that this is a sign of our business health. As much as we want to pretend like there's all these quotes out there, I'm going to say something controversial, but you got to say what you got to say, right? We have to be able to express our own opinions. And, it's good if you're making a difference, but if you're also not making $1, then it's not sustainable, right? Like, you could be making a difference and that's awesome. And you're not going to be able to stay in business if you're not making money, right? And so it's really important, especially as women entrepreneurs and male allies, that we're coming from a heart-centered space, but we're also being smart about it, right? Because we are, if you're in business, and you're being for profit, then you need to keep your eye on the for profit part as well as you're making a difference. Both are important, but it's not like, well, if you just help people, it's good enough. No, you really could go out of business if you're not making money. In fact, you will. So there you go. Okay, Joseph's candid opinion for the morning. So let's talk about financial. So how are you doing in this area? How are you being in this area, right? Because wellness is how you are being. Are you being responsible? Are you being aware of your finances? Or are you putting on a blindfold? If I don't look at it, maybe it's not really happening. Maybe I'm making more than I think I am if I don't look at my bank account, right? I definitely know people like that. How are you being with your finances? Are you thinking long-term? Are you just in the short term? If you looked at your bank account right now, how would that be for you, right? Would it make you proud? Would it make you sad? These are also clues on, how to rate this category. Is it an area that's 0, needs to improve, or 1, good enough? Okay. Awesome. And the other thing I want you to do is go ahead and write down why. Why do you feel this way financially? Why do you need to improve? Because it's the why that makes you buy. It's the why that makes you buy, and it makes you personally buy into doing something about the situation. Okay? So is there anything at this point that you've already noticed? Feel free to share with the community anything that you're already noticing about yourself or how you're being about this process, how your business wellness is, any insights that you've had. Feel free to share them in the comments section. I want you to know, I want the community to know how this is for you as we're going. Okay, so very, very cool. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is category 3, which is occupational. So now you're going to rate how well you're doing in terms of how happy you are in what you're doing, right? A lot of times we've left the corporate world, we've left the government sector, we've left, whatever else we've been doing behind so that we can go and do our own thing and build our own business or build our own nonprofit or, go into greener pastures, right? And the question is, now that you're there, are you happy? Are you really happy doing what you're doing? Are you as passionate as you were when you started, or is it starting to turn into a job? Are you spending your time really on your core strengths, or are you spending your time just doing the things that need to get done, maybe even at the expense of your sales, right? How meaningful do you feel like it is the work that you're doing? How much of a difference are you feeling like you're making in other people's lives? Like really, like not theoretically, but personally, like in a very personal level. Do you feel like you are having the impact you want to have through your occupation? Or is that something that needs improving in your world? And once again, this is not me judging this. This is not anyone else judging this. Don't give the answer that you think the world wants to hear because I don't know what the world wants to hear. I only know that I want to hear your voice and you taking ownership for, what you think is important for your business, right? So I want you to go ahead and rate on a scale of 0 to 1. Once again, go to your action plan for anyone that just joined us. And in the theme of the week section, go ahead and rate. Once again, this is the occupational section, okay? Great. And I'm going to go back over here. Great. All right. So the next category is going to be the spiritual category. And to me, I know there's a lot of groups. They're so afraid of saying the word spiritual in business. Oh! And I think it's actually a really important dimension. I think it's a really important dimension of our wellness as business people. So I'm taking the plunge on saying that it should be a dimension that we're looking at in our overall wellness of our business. So then the question is, what does spiritual mean, right? And to me, has nothing to do with religion or anything controversial. To me, what spiritual means is really like your energy. It's you connecting to your highest self, whatever that means for you. You being your best self, the highest version of yourself, to me is what being spiritual in business means, okay? So are you somebody who's connecting to being your best self? Is it consistent? Sometimes I see people, they go on stage and they're one person, and then they get off stage and boom, like turn it into a circle here, because they turn into a totally different person. Have you ever noticed that? Like total inconsistency. And maybe you've even seen it for yourself, right? They're not being in their power fully at all times. Or maybe it's the flip of that, off stage, they're like the nicest, most confident, can handle any question person. And then the minute that they're leading a sync up, or they're, speaking in front of a group, or they're on a webinar, or they get on video, or whatever it is, a new medium, a new format, they turn into like a totally different person that's not in that same space. They turn into, the kid they were in 5th grade, right? So part of our spiritual self is looking at, our consistency around being the best us, right? Or where are we being the best us? And then where are we damaging our personal brands? Like, whatever, I'm just doing this to do this. And I don't have to be the best in everything I do. I need a break, right? That also could be very damaging to your personal credibility, right? For example. So are you thinking of being your best self no matter what? And especially the times that it's the hardest to be our best selves, right? When there's conflict, when there's drama, when there's somebody that's playing devil's advocate with us, when, there's someone who's trying to micromanage us, right? Are we still in our highest self, or do we go back to, how we were in 5th grade? And people are going to treat us the way oftentimes that we're acting, right? We directly affect how people treat us. So I want you to start to notice, like, do you need more support in this area? Or do you feel like, oh, I got this, Jess, I got this, I'm good enough. I give myself a 1 versus a 0, right? The other part of spiritual that I want to bring up is values. Values are very important in the world of, truly being in integrity with what we want for the culture of our business, whether we're a company of 100 or we're a company of 1. We still have a culture. We still have, what we do and how we behave and what informs those decisions, right? And how we speak and how we act and what we value, right? And so I want you to ask yourself, are you also being totally aligned with your personal values as you're doing business? Are you also aligned with your business values as you're doing business? Okay. It's very, very important, and are you creating what I would call a sacred space to work in, right? A space where you feel empowered, a space where you feel honored, a space in which you're honoring other people. That's also part of this spiritual, energetically spiritual experience, right? Or can you do more of that? Okay, very cool. The other thing that I'll throw in the spiritual category, since I'm on a roll, is writing. As many of you know, I'm a copywriter by trade, which means I help people write in a way that sells. And as part of writing, I think I'm a big believer in energetic marketing, which means that when you put your heart into something, when you really don't just write just to send out another email or just write to respond, but you really always write with an intention in mind before you ever put pen to paper, or you put, finger to keyboard. Wow, that's like going to be a new expression, right? Is that you have this certain intention, this certain energy around it. And it really has made a difference. I can tell you for myself that when I'm very intentional about the tone that I want in a piece and what I'm trying to accomplish, like I'm trying to inspire and make a difference and talk to the listening of, very high-powered connectors, just me being in tune with that totally transform how I'm writing energetically. And it makes a difference in my conversions personally, that I'm really intentional about the energy that I'm setting in my writing or in my speaking or what I'm doing. So that's another area of, this energy around what you're doing, and to notice, is it a 0 that you need improvement around intentionality, or is it a 1, good enough? Okay. The next category is 5 which is our social category. So let's get social. How many of you like getting social? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So when we're looking at social, we're asking ourselves, how are we feeling about the people we're hanging out with? And I want you, remember, we're doing this all about business wellness. So I want you to just represent yourself to when I say socially, we're thinking of this in context of your business and who you associate with whenever you're talking about your business, okay? And so I want you to be thinking about socially, how are you doing? Are you meeting your ideal clients, right? Socially, is that an area of wellness for you? Or do you find like you're meeting all these people that don't have the money to pay for what you do and they don't get what you do? And you're like, oh, right? Many of us have been there. I know I have. Socially, are you looking at, the people who have your backs? At PHB, we have something called our High Powered Connectors program, which is all about building your dream team of promotion partners. And you have anywhere from 3 to 7 people you lock arms with over the next year, and they really have your back. You tell them all about your business. You form a formal agreement. There's over 25 ways to make a huge difference for each other in terms of referrals and masterminding and accountability and cross promotion and co-creation and putting on joint events, and I could go on and on. But the point is that you're doing amazing things with the circle that you've created that each has each other's backs and is really there for each other, independent of any other groups or any other things that you're doing. You've created this circle. And especially if you're a solopreneur or you're somebody at the top, it's often lonely at the top. It's more important than ever to have your circle, of people that have your back throughout the year. And they specifically are not just supporting you because, oh, you're a nice person. But no, these are people who are business savvy, who can make a difference for your career and vice versa. And they're actively helping you raise up your influence and your audience. And in turn, you're doing the same, building win-win profitable relationships. Okay. So I really want you to look at, are you building these tight-knit circles, these tight-knit dream teams of people who have your back? Or do you feel like you're just doing it yourself, and if you don't go out today, you're not going to get any referrals, and it's just really lonely at the top, right? So that's another thing to look at. The other part of social that I want to look at is also, who you're hanging out with in general. So when you're telling people, this is a really great test, is can you tell the people around you your biggest dreams? Can you tell them your biggest dreams? If you can't tell your family or your friends your biggest dreams, then maybe you're not, just consider that maybe you're not spending the time you need to spend in circles that can help elevate you. Because if you can't even say what you want to do, how the heck are you going to accomplish it? Right? So I want you to start to look at, who are you spending your time with? Are they people that value or devalue or make you feel like, even if they don't say it, I mean, we've all been around people like that, right? Like they don't say it to you directly, but it's just kind of that energy you get from them that, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk about launching an international organization, or they make you feel small or unimportant or undervalued, And, maybe you're just projecting this on them and they don't really feel like this at all, which could also be the case. But, the importance is that you feel like this is true, right? And so you need to surround yourself, or what I'd suggest to you is you don't need to, but you could choose to surround yourself with more people who get you, who you feel empowered by, right? Because life is short. Live it up, right? With the people you want to be around. And that's what's so cool about being entrepreneurs, is that we don't have to just work with anybody. We can choose to build our dream teams. We can choose our clients. We can choose to be our highest selves 24/7. We can be our best boss because we are a boss to ourselves, right? So very, very cool. And socially, how is your boss treating you? I think that's also a great question. I noticed for a while my boss, quote unquote, me, was treating me harder and working me harder than any other boss I've ever had. And and I really needed to look at that, so socially, how am I even being to me, right? So I want you to look at that too, okay? Great. Now we're going to move on to our next, and make sure to give yourself a rating and always explain why, right? Because if you don't explain why, you can't improve what you can't remember why you gave yourself that rating, right? So make sure you're explaining to yourself, why did you give yourself that rating for the area of occupational and spiritual and social, etc. Okay. So now we're going to move on to intellectual. Okay. Awesome. So let's talk about intellectual. And once again, as we're going through this, if anything comes up for you, if there's anything you're thinking, or if this is making a difference for you, or just anything that occurs to you, feel free to share it as we're going. Even if you're listening to the replay, share how this experience is for you, because other people could get ideas about how to think about this vicariously through your comments. So your comments are very important. All right. So we're moving on to intellectual. And intellectual, this is a category, I call this the growth category, because the question is, are you growing, right? Intellectually, we use our minds so that we can expand, right? So we can be better. And if you're not growing, most likely neither is your business. It's either stagnating or it's dying, right? It's kind of like a plant. If it's not growing, it's stagnating or dying, right? And so we need to look at what we need so that we can continue to grow, right? And part of that is continually learning new things, right? So I really want you to look at, what is your attitude towards continually, see, I said continually, learning new things? Is it like, I'll get to that when I get to that? Or are you in, like, literally, if you took out your calendar and you looked at how often you are intentionally, continually learning new things, how often would that be? Every month we do a promotion pro interview. We identify the top 12 best practices in marketing and sales every year. We've covered, last month we did Facebook Live, we've done LinkedIn, we've done eBooks, we've done marketing strategy, we've done sales. Are you going in your back office and, really continually, intentionally learning? Or are you like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh yeah, I saw an email about that, whatever, I'll get to it when I get to it, okay? So that's kind of the difference between a continual learner and somebody who's not, is that continual learners, they can prove it, right? They are actually continually doing it. And it helps if you actually put something to notice is, do you have a consistent time on your calendar for growth, right? It could be learning about your industry. It could be learning about marketing and sales. It could be making sure for sure the Rock Your Week calls, are Rock Your Week Live and Rock Your Month Live are on your calendar every Monday at, 8 a.m. as part of the 12-week challenge, right? That's a way to continually grow yourself and be strategic, right? The other thing is challenges. Part of our intellectual expansion and our intellectual way of growth is by not just doing what we're doing, right? The only way to grow is through discomfort, right? That means being challenged, doing things that aren't comfortable, because if they were, they wouldn't be challenging, right? So that's the other thing to really look at, is how are we towards things that are challenging in our business, right? Challenges could be people, right? How are we? Are we like, oh, cool, this person's totally disagreeing with me. What an opportunity. What an opportunity to see if I can be the best me in face of them not being the best them. What an opportunity. Oh, they're saying that on our team we need to learn a new technology. Oh, cool. What an opportunity for me to challenge myself. So I want you to say it with me, and feel free to make a comment if you're in on this, is, are you open to saying the next time you get challenged, no matter what it is, I want you to preface it with, what an opportunity. Okay? What an opportunity. Awesome mantra for the week, right? All right, cool. So I want you to go ahead and give yourself a rating in this area. Once again, intellectual, 0 or a 1. 0 is needs to improve by your own standards, and 1 is like done. It's like good enough, not working on that right now. And once again, for anybody that just joined us, 1 could be good enough because genuinely, you know, you're doing a great job, continually learning and growing and challenging yourself. Or it could be like you're doing a pretty terrible job. You're not consistently doing it. But on the flip side of it, you just have no interest in doing it at this time. So why pretend to commit to something you're not committed to, right? You're going to end up not doing it anyway. So, you know, so at least know that you're actively choosing not to do it. And that's what's an opportunity for our whole community, is to be more in integrity with our word. What gets exhausting is when we have a huge to-do list and we don't get it done, right? And a lot of times there's things on there that we just don't want to do, and they go on for months and months and months because we don't want to admit to ourselves that genuinely we have no intention of doing them. Some fake person we're trying to impress by leaving it on there, right? So if you're not going to do it, take it off, right? That's what I would say. And then at least get your checklist done for 1 week. Get your checklist done because you only have things on there you're actually committed to. Kind of a cool new way to look at the world, right? And not to say you can't have another list that has everything you've ever thought of on there, but why not have, you know, a list that you're actually committed to that you really could get done? Okay. All right, we're going to move on to the next category of our 8-point test, our 8-point quiz, is physical. You know, and physical is a really important part of our business wellness as business people, as entrepreneurs, as well as, you know, physically being able to be around to do our business, right? So what I want you to do is think about, are you getting through the day without undue tiredness or stress? You know, do you feel like you're crashing mid-afternoon? Do you feel like, you know, you just don't even have the energy to drive to another thing? Do you feel like you're sitting too much? Do you feel like you're just, you know, your body is achy because, you know, you're not ergonomically set up correctly? You know, I had got to the point of working with this awesome person on chiropractic, and actually what I realized was my whole body was tilting to the right. And I didn't even realize it because my screens were set up in such a way that I was always looking at one screen, and I was doing it so much that I was consistently tilting my body. And to readjust me, it was just looking at my ergonomic space to begin with. I mean, that made a huge difference in my posture and what I was up to. So I want you to also look at, like, physically how you're sitting, you know, how you're coming across with your brand, right? Your personal brand. People start to form an impression of you before you open your mouth. I'm going to say that again. It's so important. People start to form an impression of you before you open your mouth, right? And that directly affects our business. The messenger affects the message. The messenger affects the message, right? So physically, are you representing, right? How do you want people to think about your business? If it's energetic and lively, is that how you're coming across, right? Physically. And consistently, you know, and through what you're wearing and through what you're promoting and through what you're saying, right? Does that make sense? So I want you to really look at that, okay? And then overall, from the physical category, are you doing helpful habits, like the things that we learn about intentionally at PHB? We always also think bigger than our business, right? And as part of that, we build in Healthy Her moments. As you know, Rose Vera is our Healthy Her director for Silicon Valley chapter. So are you doing helpful habits and taking those habits like really seriously? Not like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I knew that. But like you're like actively taking them on? Or are you doing more destructive habits, right? Like not getting enough sleep or eating foods that cause you to crash, or you know what you're doing, right? And that affects you physically, which affects your business. You having the energy to talk to one more person, you having the energy to drive to one more event, you feeling better literally affects how the energy around how you're speaking to people, right? When you feel good, na, 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 you know, there's a different energy. People are more likely to buy from you, na, 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 than when you feel like crap, buy my product. Right? I can't even tell you how many people like talk to me like that. And I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be in health and wellness. Why are you saying that in that way? Right? Ouch. Okay. So I want you to look at that, you know, so on a scale of 0 to 1, once again, you know, how would you rate yourself? 0 being needs to improve physically, 1 being, you know, it's good enough for now. And I want you to once again write down why, right? Why? You know, why did you rate yourself this way? And you're putting all of this, for anyone that just joined us, you're putting this all on your Rock Your Week planner, right? And then finally, we're going to get to category 8. 8 is great. It's the final point of our business wellness assessment, which is really exciting. And it is environmental. And this is really what I want you to ask yourself, you know, how are you being about your work environment? Is your environment helping you or hindering you? And this, it doesn't matter what workspace we're talking about, but I want you to really look at all the workspaces that you're in. You know, it could be your home office. It could be you have another brick and mortar establishment. It could be that you hang out a lot in different coffee shops. It could be that you have a co-working space. It could be that you get together with your promotion partners. You do a work day at somebody else's house. You all come together, which can be very fun. I think it's very cool to actually do work days. I just did one with Rose Vera actually a few weeks ago, where we were both working on different things, and we were accountable for doing the things we had been procrastinating, you know, because we were both in each other's presence. And it was very cool. So I want you to look at your work environment and seeing, is it helping you or hurting you? If you feel really lonely, maybe it's time to look for a space where you could be around more people. Or, you know, maybe it's dark and gloomy in your workspace. And so this is the week that you make your workspace better work for you and you liven it up. You don't have to totally remodel your house, but you could, you know, maybe bring in something into your workspace that makes you smile. Go buy a plant, go add the color yellow, you know, go get a funny saying, you know, that's on your desk, or something that just makes you happy. I love this. This is something you probably see in the background a lot, and you're like, I wish I could read that if her chair wasn't always in front of it. But somebody got me this, and I just love this. It's Goal Digger, not Gold Digger, but Goal Digger. And I totally dig results, right? I dig goals. I dig strategic planning. I thought it was like so cool. And not only was it, you know, true of me and totally in alignment with my brand, my personal brand and PHP's business brand, but also, you know, it's kind of funny. I'm like, hee every time that I see it. People always read it wrong, and I think that's awesome, and I love that. So there you go. Right? So what else can you do, you know, to really have the workspace you want to work in, right? Because you can create it. That's what's so exciting about being your own boss and being an entrepreneur is, you know, you don't have to just take whatever space or whatever cube they give you. Oh my goodness. I could think of when I was in the consulting world and I was actually consulting with this Fortune 500 tech company, and they put us like a bunch of consultants all in one cube. And we were like on top of each other with our laptops, fighting over plugging it in. And oh my gosh, it was just terrible. It was terrible. And it was dark and it was gloomy and it was industrial and nobody liked each other and it was dramatic and right? And so you have an opportunity to create what you want, not just repeat what you don't, right? And by default, what happens is when we don't intentionally create the world we want to be in or the workspace we want to be in, we default to what we've done in the past. And oftentimes that's coming off of experiences we don't always want. So that's why it's so important to be intentional about your workspace, your work environment that you're in. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and on this last dimension of environment, go ahead and rate yourself on a scale of 0 or 1, 0 being needs improvement, 1 being good enough, or I'm just not focused on that this week just because I am prioritized. I'm only putting things on my list that I will actually do. You can't coach people, as any coach would tell you. You can't coach people that aren't coachable, and you can't even coach yourself if you're not coachable. That's kind of been really eye-opening lesson. I mean, I know it has been for me. So I want you to go ahead and just take a minute, and if you're with us or you're watching the replay, go ahead and feel free to make a comment. Like, what was your biggest insight from doing this 8-point business wellness assessment? And once again, the areas that we covered were If you missed it, it's Josephine Hannon's screen. I don't even know why that's an option, but okay. So the different areas are emotional, financial, occupational, spiritual, social, intellectual, physical, and environmental. So what was your biggest takeaway? And out of all these areas, what is the biggest one that you really think will make a difference this week in impacting? So yes, I want you to choose just one. The creativity is in picking one, not in going outside the directions and picking 10, but pick one. Pick the one. See if you can get yourself to follow the instructions as well as an accomplishment for this week. And go ahead and pick the one that you think will make the biggest difference for your business this upcoming week, right? Because being able to prioritize is also very, very important. And it's something that I see so many women and entrepreneurs really struggle with is there's so many things we want to do. And we want to do this, and we want to do this, and we want to do this, right? And it's overwhelming, right? So we need to be able to prioritize, right? So start with one, get it done, boom, and then move on to the next thing, right? And so this week, I really want you to be thinking about as you're finishing your Rock Your Week action plans, really focusing on the things you most want to do, putting the things on the calendar that will move your business forward the fastest, not putting things on there or taking things off or rescheduling things that really are going to slow you down or you have no intention of doing or you're doing them for somebody else. Right? And then being in tune with what will make the biggest difference for your business wellness. All right. So with that said, go ahead and, if you have any other announcements that you would like to share for this upcoming week, let us know. I know in the world of PHB, we have our social coming up. So I'm very excited about that at Roots and Rye this upcoming week. So it's going to be on Wednesday, November 7th. So we'll see you there. And remember, it's always more fun with friends. It's always more fun with friends, right? So invite the people you want to see in PHB with you, right? Because it's the coolest thing when we have this whole chapter of the most supportive, driven, and trailblazing entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley with us. It's always more fun with friends, and it's always easier to do business when we have a room full of people we like because we handpicked, right? So invite the coolest people to attend. And also let us know any other announcements that you have, for your business, for product launches, for open houses. You could tell about promotion partners, anything that's coming up for them. It's always cool to pay it forward. Also be doing one-on-ones, right? Because we challenged you to do one-on-ones in between events, right? So every time we have an event, make it a goal to meet up with at least one other member of PHB before the next event, right? So that you can really be the tight-knit community. You can think of each other first. You can buy from each other first. You can refer each other first, right? You can support each other first, but you can't do that if you don't know each other on a deeper level than just, you know, seeing each other once at a luncheon, right? So we want to build much tighter knit community. So I challenge you, if you haven't already, get that one-on-one on the calendar. You can also look at who members are in our PHB group on Facebook. So you can also personally message them and be like, hey, I haven't even met you yet, but I'd like to. Okay, cool. So with that said, we will see you at the social coming up this Wednesday. And until we meet again, keep promoting your business and each other. Say it with me now, online, offline, all the time. Have a great week, everybody, and rock it. Bye. Mwah. I love you all.